Hello and welcome back to another video. Today going to be going through 15 tracks I would like to see return for Gran Turismo 7. So for this list I won't be including anything that's in Gran Turismo Sport, because we've pretty much had it confirmed everything from that game will come forward, and I'm not going to add into this any tracks that we've already had confirmed on top of that. So I know 15 tracks is a big ask, I'm not necessarily expecting all of these to come to the game, but these are my 15 favourite tracks from previous games that aren't in Sport and haven't been confirmed for GT7 yet, that I would quite like to see come to the game, and we've got 3 honourable mentions at the end as well. So I'm going to start with 4 real-world circuits that I'd like to see return, then move on to 8 original circuits and 3 city circuits. So let's get started with our 4 real-world circuits, starting with Silverstone, quite an obvious one to be missing from Gran Turismo Sport. One of the ones we thought would come back. Obviously Le Mans and Spa and Monza weren't there at launch and gradually got added, so we were kind of expecting Silverstone in an update, but it was never to be. So this was last seen in Gran Turismo 6 and is quite an obvious real-world circuit it's quite a big thing to have missing, so I'd really love to have that come back. Obviously it's our main track here in the UK, so that is the first track I'd love to see return for Gran Turismo 7. Sticking with the theme of British tracks, that's a famous, well not really tracks, the Goodwood hill climb. Obviously we had the circuit in Gran Turismo Sport, and that's been seen in Gran Turismo 7 as well as being confirmed, everything's coming forward. But the hill climb that we had in Gran Turismo 6, not quite a track I know, but Lord March's driveway effectively. But that was such a cool event in there, and it was quite an interesting, well, it's not really in anything else, the Goodwood hill climb, apart from mods for Assetto Corsa or something. So yeah, the second one is again a UK, not quite track, but the Goodwood hill climb is a really cool thing. I do love the Goodwood event, so it would be really cool to see that come back. Obviously only ever been in Gran Turismo 6. So our third of 4 real-life circuits is another UK track, possibly almost the most famous of the 3, the Top Gear track. Everybody knows the Top Gear track. It's probably one of the few tracks everybody knows most of the corner names for, in fact. So yeah, unfortunately it's not the old Top Gear anymore, it's new Top Gear, but I think you still have the circuit. Anyway, Dunsfold Airfield, for anybody who doesn't know, and that was last seen in Gran Turismo 6. It's also been in a lot of Forza Motorsport games, but that would be really cool to see that return. These 3 are quite obvious tracks that have been left out of Sport. There was a lot that didn't come to that game, so it'd be really cool to see them come forward. Obviously last in Gran Turismo 6, which is arguably the previous Gran Turismo, the 7's the sequel to 6 effectively, so arguably we've not missed a game, but they weren't in Sport, and that's been the only Gran Turismo we've had for a long time, so those would be cool to see return. Our 4th and final real-world circuit is the Ascari resort, the private track sort of thing, but the Ascari track, which was only ever seen in Gran Turismo 6, would love to see that carried forward to 7, obviously missed out in Sport. So those are the real-world circuits. Obviously I know there are a lot more that aren't in there, but for me personally these are the ones that I can remember driving on Gran Turismo that I really enjoyed. So that's kind of the theme of the tracks, which is why some of them are in honourable mentions. They're not things I've personally really enjoyed driving. So anyway, we move on to the original circuits. So we kick this off with Special Stage Route 5, and well I say Route 5, but really any of the classic special stages, 5, 11, there's a few that were in various previous Gran Turismo games, not 10 that I know came to Sport, and was DLC I believe in one of the games before that. That one's not very interesting, it's just sort of 2 long straights, and it's like an extended NASCAR track effectively, and we're probably going to have normal NASCAR tracks, so we don't need that. But anyway, obviously Special Stage Route 5 I think is the classic one that we all remember from Gran Turismo 1 even, I can remember driving that. So yeah, that's the classic, but yeah, really any of these would be really cool to see. And I should probably say, as with all of these, if there are multiple layouts of the track, when I say the track I kind of mean all the layouts, if that wasn't self-explanatory. Silverstone and Top Gear, that kind of applies. I don't think it does to Ascari or Goodwood. But yeah, if that wasn't already clear. But anyway, special stage would be really cool to see, because obviously we only had Tokyo Expressway really, and special stage Route 10 in Gran Turismo Sport, which weren't really up to the classic ones, if I'm honest. Next up is Deep Forest, last seen in Gran Turismo 6, and had been in all the previous Gran Turismo games up to that point. Main games, when I say all the previous Gran Turismo games, for a few of these, I mean the main games. It might not necessarily have been in some of the prologues and in-betweeny games. But yeah, it was in all games before GT6, so GT7 would be the only numbered GT game not to have it if it didn't come forward. We know some original tracks are being brought forward slightly edited, so I wouldn't necessarily want it exactly the same. I understand they have to change things for racing and online stuff in modern games, so that would be cool to see alongside some of the original circuits we've already had confirmed. Third original circuit is the Autumn Ring, again last seen in Gran Turismo 6, and it's been in every other game except for Gran Turismo 3 and Gran Turismo Sport. So again, GT7's the only numbered one that wouldn't have it if it didn't come forward. Another sort of classic Gran Turismo track that we all know and love. Next up is a slightly more modern one, the Matahorn Circuit. Obviously, an original Gran Turismo circuit, but based around the real Matterhorn mountain, which is an amazing place. Yeah, that would be really cool to see. Obviously, it had multiple different layouts, and that only came to Gran Turismo 6, so a relatively modern Gran Turismo track, although I know that game is quite old now. But yeah, not in sport, so it'd be very cool to see that in Gran Turismo 7. Next up is the Eichenwaldt Circuit. I probably butchered that pronunciation. But anyway, seen in Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6. So again, compared to some of the others, quite a new one. Not been through all of the Gran Turismo games. But similar sort of mountainous Alps style circuit to the Matterhorn one. Again, several different versions of it. But both of those would be really cool to see come forward. One of them only from Gran Turismo 6, one from 5 and 6. But yeah, it would be really cool to see that return in Gran Turismo 7. Next up is Grand Valley, which is last seen in Gran Turismo 6 and had been in all the previous games up to that point, so again Gran Turismo 7 would be the only numbered Gran Turismo not to have it in if it didn't come forward. But like with all of these, it would potentially be edited to be brought forward to fit enough cars in the pit lane and have fair racing in online situations. But yeah, that would be a really cool one to see return as well. So next on the list is a bit of a different one, obviously a very long circuit, the Circuito de la Sierra, which I've probably also butchered the pronunciation of. Only ever in Gran Turismo 6, used for the custom track feature. They were based on that for that game, so I think you could make them on an app and then you had to import them, but you could make custom tracks, sort of. It wasn't a brilliant track builder, but it was a fun feature. Quite a lot of fun, but yeah, used for that and the Sierra Time Rally, so the track that was in the game that these custom circuits were based off. There was a track in the game that was used for the Sierra Time Rally, where you're essentially in a fast car and you have to go past lots of slower cars without hitting them, and you get points for, well, I think you have to get around in a certain time past a certain number of cars. I think your time has increased or something, but anyway, that was an event I had lots and lots of fun playing. Lots of fun and quite a lot of irritation. Many hours spent trying to get the score on there, because it was worth a lot of money in the game if you didn't. But anyway, you get the idea. I love that circuit. It was a massive track, huge. It was almost like being open world, and it wasn't because you followed the track, but that was a really cool one, something quite different to a lot of the other tracks in the game. But again, Gran Turismo 6 exclusive, so a relatively modern one, comparatively, given how many Gran Turismo games there have been. And last but not least, the El Capitan Circuit in GT4 and GT5, the only main games that had it, or other Gran Turismos that had it in between. But this one I've driven a lot of on Gran Turismo 4 in the recent streams, and, well, to start with, found it quite irritating, but it is a classic Gran Turismo track, and I'd really love to see it return. Had the dirt versions as well in some of the special condition events, so that would be really cool to see. So that brings us to an end of some of the original circuits. Some of the city circuits that I'm going to move on to next, 3 city circuits, are original circuits, although some of them are based on real-world locations. So let's move on to those. First on the list of city circuits is the London circuit, again only from Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6, so the relatively recent games, but that was a really cool one for fictional circuit around the streets of London. I know we have Formula E there, but not around the centre like that, so that's a really cool one that I'd love to see. Another British track, I know, there's quite a lot on there, but hey, I'm from the UK, I want lots of British tracks to return. Second up is the Città d'Aria, which again I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of, from Gran Turismo 4. You might remember replaying that one recently, but I can remember playing that loads of times. It was really irritating to get through back in the day. Slightly easier on stream when I tried to redo it, but anyway. Only ever on Gran Turismo 4, the only ever main game to have it. So that would be really cool to see come back to 7. I know they're trying to hark back to 4 in many ways, and bring back the feeling of those older games. So yeah, that would be really cool to see tracks like that return, that one in particular. So last but not least on the city list, and also for the whole list until we get to the honourable mentions, the Seattle circuit, which is one I know a lot of people love. Actually in 2, 3, 4 and 5, so disappeared for 6 and Sport, so it would be really cool to see that come back to 7, not sure why it was removed really. But yeah, that one, one of the few ones that wasn't in 6 in this list. A lot of them were and got removed for Sport, but yeah, that one not in 6 either. And that would be really cool as the final city circuit to appear in the game. So, moving on to 3 honourable mentions or bonus tracks, partly because I've not really raced them and partly because they're not exactly circuits. I know we put the hill climb in the main list, but that's one I particularly enjoyed. So I'm going to start with the Las Vegas drag strip, GT4 only, very fun just to run the cars up there, see what times they did. Obviously a real world location, but a sort of made up drag strip in the centre of Las Vegas like that. I think only ever in Gran Turismo 4, but that's in there because it's kind of a drag strip rather than a circuit, that's why it's in the bonus tracks. Second of the bonus or honourable mentions is the complex string from Gran Turismo 3. So, well, Crazy Crib actually told me about this one in a recent stream. I hadn't really heard of it before. Apparently it's been seen in the files for Gran Turismo 5 as well, but was never added. But basically, well, take a look at the map that I'm going to put on screen, or that's probably on the top corner, because I'm going to have to found footage from this, because I don't currently have Gran Turismo 3. But yeah, a mad circuit that unfortunately I never drove, so that's why it's an honourable mentions, because I don't have memories of driving it. But yeah, ever since I saw the track diagram for this, I thought it would be really cool to have a go with. So would really love to see that return for Gran Turismo 7, given it's only ever been in one previous game. And with a lot of these made up and original circuits, there's no licensing issues, so there's absolutely no reason why they can't be brought back, if possibly in a different layout. That one potentially wouldn't work very well, or maybe they'd have to use it as time trial only and single player or something, because it wouldn't work for online. But yeah, a really cool circuit, something completely different that I'd love to see return. So, final honourable mention is the Pikes Peak hill climb, again from Gran Turismo 3 and seen in the Gran Turismo 5 files, much like the complex string. This is a real life circuit, so it's potentially, some of the rally games have exclusive licenses of it on it maybe, but a really cool hill climb route that I'd love to see in Gran Turismo 7, one that I've never driven on Gran Turismo, didn't actually realise it was in one of the Gran Turismo games until fairly recently, but we had some of the Pikes Peak hill climb cars in some of the early ones as well, so that's an excuse to bring some of those back. But yeah, that is all 15 circuits, or my top 15 circuits I'd love to see return for Gran Turismo 7, as well as 3 honourable mentions. Most of these because I have fond memories of playing them on various previous Gran Turismo games, and would love to see them return for Gran Turismo 7. Obviously a lot of stuff taken out for Sport, but this is really a sequel to Gran Turismo 6, Gran Turismo 7, they said Sport wasn't 7, but yeah, we've had all tracks from Sport confirmed, so, and a few original ones confirmed as coming back, but these are a list of ones that haven't been confirmed so far that I would love to see. Obviously, 15 circuits is a big ask. I don't expect to see all of them. Many of them, maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 or so of them would be cool to see, but yeah, even if they're added at a later date. But anyway, these are just tracks I would like to see. I don't necessarily expect them to come to the game. But anyway, that is my list of top 15 tracks. Do let me know which tracks you would like to see, if there's any I've missed out, or if there's any on the list you agree with. And do let me know if you've enjoyed the video, because potentially we can do some similar ones on other aspects of the upcoming Gran Turismo game. But that is going to be all for today's video, so thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it and would like to see plenty more content, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.